safety procedures, carrying life-saving emergency distress and communications equipment, wearing life jackets, attending safe boating courses, participating in free boat safety checks, and staying sober when navigating, we can help ensure boaters on America's coastal, inland, and offshore waters to stay safe throughout the season. National Safe Boating Week is observed to bring attention to important life-saving tips for recreational boaters so that they can have a safer, more fun experience out on the water throughout the year. Whereas, on average, 650 people die each year in boating-related accidents in the U.S. 75% of these are fatalities caused by drowning. And whereas the vast majority of these accidents are caused by human error or poor judgment, and not by the boat, equipment, or environmental factors. And whereas a significant number of boaters who lose their lives by drowning each year would be alive today had they worn their life jackets. Therefore, I, Mayor Dina Meek, do hereby support the goals of the Safe Boating Campaign and proclaim May 18th through 24th, 2024 as National Safe Boating Week and the start of the year-round effort to promote safe boating. In witness thereof, I urge all those who boat to practice safe boating habits and wear a life jacket at all times while boating. Given under my signature and seal of the City of Oak Point this 15th day of May 2021.
On a related note, Dallas Corinthian Yacht Club is having their gala this weekend. There'll be about 30 sailboats out on the lake, being Point on Saturday and Sunday. So if you want to see some sailboats out in the distance across the lake, take a look.
Thank you. Agenda item number 8 is items of community interest. Joni?
We have Freedom Fest coming up at the end of June, I believe it's Saturday, June 29th. And it's 10 to 1. Got all kinds of good stuff planned, like usual.
Thank
Did you say June 21st?
29th.
29th.
Today is National Police Memorial Day, and I'd like to advise that we should honor the fallen and remember those that gave their lives to keep all of us safe. Does anyone else have anything for community interest? Yes,
I do, and I know it's not really our city, but Little Elm is actually having a vet fair at the Little Elm Lawn on the 25th. So that would be Memorial Day weekend, and we'll start at 3:30 and go to 6:30. So any veterans interested in a vet fair, I will be there. I actually have a table set up when it comes to veteran service officers.
Great. Anything else from council? Okay. Before we go to public input, I'm going to make a slight change in the agenda. And I am going to ask the Little Elm ISD Superintendent, Mike Lamb, to come up and give us a presentation. This is instead of agenda item number 15. He's going through it.
Well, thank you for this opportunity. I don't know if this is the best place to be here.
That's a good place. It's got a microphone.
Okay. So, yes, what a neat thing y'all have here. This is pretty cool. Saw your park and stuff, so kudos to Oak Point, neat little town situation. Appreciate your partnership in our schooling. I was asked by email to kind of share what our plan as the new campus comes on, but then even here, maybe some other thoughts towards maybe parking and things like that. So, and then be open to any questions you have. But as you know, yes, we're building in Lakewood Village. As you look at that chart over there, all the blue on the left, even up in Valencia, is what goes to Oak Point now. And so I think you're very aware that that school is very overloaded at this point. Close, I think we've passed the 1,000 mark at that point, or at this point. So the new school can't come on quick enough so that we can relieve pressure from that particular school. The idea, I think that most people have had is that, in some way, once that school's on, again, if you look at that blue, land, somehow we're gonna have to cut that in half, basically, and send half a little further south, and half will stay where they are. Turns out it's not really quite that easy, because this campus is a dual language campus for us. And dual language requires, a certain amount of teachers and that kind of thing. So it's not gonna be exactly a complete clean split. Basically, we have 4 dual language classes per grade. And so, right now there's some of those grades that have 9 to 10 teachers in them. And typically we would want 4 or 6. And so when 4 of them are going to be dual language, then we need to have 2 others so that we kind of have a half and half situation, even though it's not half and half. So my assumption is this school will be built next year, and the following year we will we'll break it up and start doing. Now, I think our numbers throughout the district, even on the other side, are such that we may do a complete rezoning. I don't think it would affect this situation much at all. Possibly where that Valencia is tends to create some problems for us. It's hard to get kids from there over to here because of the 380 and the bus and that kind of thing. I don't know if sending them back to maybe Lakeside or Lakeview would help or not, but we work with Zonder, who is a demographic firm, and they have all our addresses in a database, and so they can draw the line and show us how many kids would be here and how many kids would be here. So when that time comes, that's how that split will go. Again, where there's roughly 9 and 10 teachers per every grade in Oak Point right now, it will trim to, I believe, 6. And I say I believe, we're making plans and we're moving forward, and as we run into bumps, we may have to change our plans. But as of right now, that's the direction we're going. We'll trim down to 6 per grade at Oak Point, and it'll be full at that point, because we function with, we want to be, again, if there's 6 per grade and 22 is usually the typical class average, that's about 789, and 777 is as big as we would absolutely want to be. So when you're running all 6, as I call it, you're at about 777. Almost all our buildings are built with a capacity of 777. So that's about as big as we want to be. Of course, Oak Point has shown us different. The only reason it works is because we have the portables and that kind of thing. So we like to get to where we're not using the portables and our buildings serve the need. So we're headed towards 6 classes per grade, 4 of them being dual language, 2 being non-dual language, and that's what we're shooting for. So that's the split. That's not quite a jump in there and just cut it in half. So there'll be some interesting ways we have to figure out some things, again, using the software that's provided for us. But that's the general plan. I'll jump to the here and now, and I do realize that when we have special events, parking is an issue. You named the neighborhood earlier. What neighborhood was it? Wild Ridge. So, when I've been here right at a year. I started April 1st last year, and I was told about this situation. And, I'll just say this as I know it, and if you want to educate me differently, you can. We have a problem with parking. Is it all the time? Well, when we have big events. How many big events do we have? About 4 or 5 a year. So if that's not true, you can share that with me. But 4 or 5 big events a year where we're not parking in great places. I think it's a very natural thought to say we can't pour a big concrete pad for what I think will be fixed as soon as we can essentially cut this in half. And again, this dual language thing, not that it caught us off guard, but the deeper we got into this discussion, we realized, again, it's not going to be quite half. So I'm not so sure that we won't still need something. For next year, what I've tried to offer and tried to let, when we have those events, can we have our teachers park somewhere else and bus them over, which is supposed to free up quite a bit of parking. Estimated it would free up enough, or maybe that's not an issue. Those are the plans as of now. Again, we feel strongly that when we can build the new school and essentially cut this in half, parking is not supposed to be an issue anymore. Would hate to pour a slab that would, I guess, go to waste after 4 or 5 events of next year. If we get to that point and realize that's not true at all, we will definitely do what we have to do to pour a slab and get the parking fixed. But the thought process to this point has been, when I got here, it was like, we've only got 2 more years and it'll fix itself, won't it? And that's what I was told. So beyond that, I don't know what else I could share besides any questions you have for me.
When do you estimate you'll know where the boundary lines will be? What's the timing on that?
I don't know. Again, I think as soon as the dust settles and everybody's in school next year, I think we can start playing with those numbers. And so we'll start in September. Again, it'll be a matter of just, drawing a line here and seeing what kind of numbers it shoots each way. And if that works or not works, we'll draw another line. So there's going to be, we let school get started September, October. We start messing with that anywhere from October to February. There's just not going to be a lot of difference so we can do that. As soon as we decide something in February, everything will change over the summer. It'll change whatever we've decided. But at that point, it'll be too late to make real changes. So we're trying to stay ahead of this as much as possible, but there is this feeling that we got time. So we have to be careful to not delay it too long. But we'll let school get started. We'll figure out what kind of move-ins we have. One of the hardest things right now to, I guess, predict is with the housing that's being built. We don't know what's going to come into that and have kids or not have kids. So, and then even if they have kids, may or may not go to school with little ones. So that's kind of hard to predict at this point. But we're going to do the best we can, probably start in October.
Is it reasonable to expect we'll likely have an east-west line somewhere towards the middle of the peninsula, probably?
I would think so. Again, the dual language thing really, like anything you look at that and think makes sense, probably doesn't. The way dual language works is students that are emergent bilingual or speak Spanish primarily in their home, they qualify and automatically get in the program. For every student we have that qualifies on that side, we allow a student to come in on the other side for the opportunity to learn Spanish as they go through school. Those students essentially could come from a non-zoned area. Now, the way this is set up with Oak Point being completely on the left side of that chart, what I'm saying is a little more issue on the right side. So, for example, if a kid lives in the Chavez zone, we don't have a dual language school in Chavez. They either have to go to Hackberry or Brent. So when you pull a bunch of kids out of the Chavez zone, but you go look and see, well, how many kids are there? It's not completely accurate because of the dual language thing. So we got to figure out how to account for that, then start drawing lines and try to see exactly where that line fits the best. I don't know if it's important to you or not. I mean, I've tried to look at where a city line and there's no way we can say, well, it's only Oak Point students going to Oak Point School, again, back to Valencia and that kind of thing. But I think it would make sense for us to kind of start at that city line and see what happens and then work from there.
Can you estimate the number of students at Oak Point Elementary that live in the Oak Point city limits?
I can't right now because when you sent the email, I looked at the lines, but again, we depend on this company to help us look at it. So until I can sit down and meet with them and start looking at their software, that's not something I was prepared to be able to say just yet.
Okay.
So what happens to the capacity of Oak Point Elementary once the new school is open and roughly half the students move on to another school?
Well, basically, I think it'll be considered full. I think we'll be at the 777. Now, I say that, again, if you do, 22 times 6, I think that's 789 or something like that. That's kind of the max, but we never have 22 kids. We have 19, 20. So a lot of times when it's 777, it's actually 650 are in the school. So I think roughly 650 will be in the school with the ability to grow to a 777.
What
But
about the new school?
the new school will be able to hold the same.
Well, how many students will you send there?
Well, again, at this point, it's just a cutting. And so really and truly, that one's the one that's hard because there are so many houses being built right there. I'll give you an example. In one particular grade right now, there's 9 teachers. And so we're going to keep 6 teachers at Oak Point. We're going to keep Oak Point kind of as the solid. Well, we're going to send 3 over there. We don't really want a class of 3. We assume and hope that some move-ins will come and we'll make that a 4. Because once that's a 4, that will be a solid school. So that's the one we're going to kind of just play with for a while until we get there.
So you're gonna try and get Oak Point to slightly under capacity and let the growth come to the
Yes.
new school?
Yeah. Now, that doesn't work quite that way. I'm a little accustomed to, and I'm hoping to, I've asked a question, and some of the other side where it's a little fuzzier is a better example, but 22 times 6 in any one grade. And the thing is, we tend to think of things like, well, what about a 4th grader? What about a 5th grader? All classes are built for kindergarten, and then they grow into it. So when you're building a kindergarten class, if the kindergarten class that we built maxes out at Oak Point, I would prefer when somebody new comes along to say, we're not maxed out at Lakewood Village. That's where you need to go. Now, that's not been the practice here to this point. The verbiage is we'd rather put portables up and everybody go where they live by. I'm not sure that's the best way to do things. That'll be discussed. I think we can do some things in what I'd call pairing sister campuses. Lakewood Village and Oak Point will partner in a lot of ways. Hackberry and Brent already partner a lot of ways, and Chavez and Lakeview, I get all the lakes mixed up, could be partners where that might work. It's not so much we're going to send you all the way across town, but we might send you this far to fill up a situation. Lots of things, when we get into the 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, we have partner teachers. I teach math and science, you teach English and social studies. And I have 22, you have 22, but we trade all day. Anytime, so 4s and 6s make a lot of sense. 5s do not make a lot of sense. So I try to manage the numbers a little better, a little more precisely in that situation. But that's kind of new and different. So I'm not dead certain we're going to get to go that route, but we're going to sure try.
Any other questions?
Yeah, a couple. Exactly where is this located?
Which one?
That school is coming online.
Lakewood Village?
Lakewood Village. It's a neighborhood roughly right here.
Okay, that's really what I'm concerned about. And then, when is that supposed to be, what's your target?
Well, all next school year it'll be being built in. Hopefully before the school year's over, but I bet you we'll still be sweeping the floor as August rolls around the next year, if we're lucky.
And it's slated to support 772. Is there a reason it wasn't designed to hold maybe more, or it's just too difficult to run an operation of that size? Or it's thinking that.
Well, I can't speak to that. I assume you realize I wasn't here for the passing of this bond and those kind of things. It just so happens, all of our buildings, except for Prestwick, and it's a little smaller, happen to be 777s. You say, why not bigger? Are you coming from a thought process that you think bigger might be better in some cases?
No, I suppose it might, it's just a real question.
Yeah.
You know, I think just taking into consideration what's around, what's growing. I don't design schools, and I don't.
Sure.
I don't expect to go.
It's very debatable with lots of different people. Again, I like 4s and 6s. If you get much bigger than 6s, you're too big, and I think Oak Point is kind of case in point right now. So again, me bringing my preference in, liking 6s, which again, I think turns out to be 789, seeing that all our schools are already 777s, my liking matched what was here. So that was easy. You realize we have another school already approved beyond this one for Valencia, which the plan is to get this one built and done and do that one down the road. I don't think it's any secret right now that what our demographers told us growth was going to happen a few years ago has not quite happened. I'm not completely certain that school is going to be needed when, very quickly after this one's built. It will be needed at some point, but I don't know if it's going to be needed as quick as we thought, again, based on numbers. A reality, and I think so many people felt like, again, if there's 1,000 kids in this school, it's easy to say, okay, well, there'll be 500 here and 500 there, boom, here we go. It's not going to be quite that easy, but at the same time, realizing that Oak Point's got to be a 6, and I believe we have to have a 6 on the other side. So by the time we have 2 6s, the rest are probably, I think we'll only have numbers to justify a bunch of 4s after that. And all those 4s will have to grow into 6s before we go to the next elementary. So that to me is the plan as of right now.
Where's Valencia?
It's this part of here.
Alma Creek?
Am I saying it wrong?
No, I think it's wrong.
Right here. We have a plan right here. I'm not sure what this is called. And there's a sign. So, I don't know if you've ever thought of it. I tell people, Little Elm is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 peninsulas in Lake Louisville. I always kind of do this and tell people, this school and this school I can see, but it takes me 30 minutes to get around and get to that. So this is kind of a difficult thing sometimes. Location-wise, it makes a lot of sense for us to have one here. I don't know that the numbers are going to justify it when the time comes. We still may have to make that decision for location's sake and just, deal with numbers maybe a different way. But that's all kind of down the road, really.
So this property that y'all own down here, Gotford Road, is like still way out.
Meaning a school?
Yeah.
I think so. I don't think there's a big plan for a school there anytime soon. I'm not sure we have a deed that may be too small for a school. We've had some discussion, but I'm not sure. At one time, wasn't there discussion of it being maybe a middle school?
Yes.
The few conversations I've had, and I come in and kind of ask a bunch of questions and try to figure out where we are. I think the thought process as of right now is we won't need a 3rd middle school for a long time. We would add on to our 2 first probably and maximize those 2. But, who can predict growth right now and all that's going on? And I assume you're aware of the legislative issues we're dealing with and the voucher issues we're dealing with. And, those things are either going to get better or worse in the next few years. And so if they were to get better, as I would hope they would, we'll need buildings a little faster. If they continue to get worse, we're going to need less buildings as time goes on. So lots of factors here.
Better and worse are subjective terms.
Sure, absolutely, absolutely, no doubt.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, you may.
When you're doing these discussions on these 2 schools, or the one in Lakeview and then the one in Valencia, are you taking into account the growth that's going on kind of here at Oak Point with respect to the residents' homes being built in Bloomfield which is 400, 500.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
then an additional mileage.
Yes,
So when you're talking about these schools, you've already taken the growth there into consideration?
yes. You say already, we don't know what it is, but yes, we have to be talking about
You
it.
would imagine
Sure.
at 500 homes, maybe a certain percentage you're gonna have.
Absolutely.
high school kids, and you kind of get into your.
Yeah.
analysis.
And again, 1,000 kids, 500, I've already said they can both grow to 700. So a good 400 kids coming in, we can handle on this side. And let's just say, I say a good 400, all of a sudden there's 500 or 600, it would certainly dictate that it's time for this school to keep this from getting that big. So it's watching the numbers is what it boils down to.
Any other questions?
There's one last, and that's an elementary school, right? What grade is that?
It's an elementary school, yes. So, we have 6 currently. The one at Lakewood Village is gonna be our 7th, and we have approval and all things for the 8th one. Just some of the dynamics have changed since that was approved.
And what grade is that stuff?
K through 5. No, yeah, K through 5. And the middle schools are 6 through 8.
How many middle schools do you have?
We have 2. They're
High school, obviously, one.
high school 1.
Y'all plan
So
to expand high schools?
We do?
More than one high school?
No, sir. As of right now, not right now.
So in the future, to ever have more than one high school?
My understanding as I came in is they've had that battle on whether we'll be a 2 high school town or not, and 1 high school town has won at this
Okay.
point. When you say expanding, what I thought you were referring to, what I was told is it's pretty much been decided by the community that we'll stay a 1 high school town, but we need to do something to that high school to relieve some pressure. I don't know if you're aware, at the same time we're building this elementary school, we're building an academic wing onto the high school and a gym with some other things coming in a phase 2. I was told that one of the strategies that's been pushed out that would possibly relieve some pressure is to have either a freshman center built right beside it, or what's kind of the modern day talk of a CTE center. The skill-based programs we have, like welding and health science technology and those things, lots of schools have gone to where they're kind of doing those on a separate facility, and it pulls a lot of kids out of the building, frees up room inside. That I am a former CTE director, been a part of a lot of that type of thing. I'd like to see us have an auto shop teaching kids how to auto. I'd like to see us teaching them how to build and HVAC and plumbing. And so if we can head that direction, we will probably end up with a CTE center.
So just a point of clarification, this property over here, is that Malone School District or is that DISD?
Bloomfield's DISD.
So both the Phase 7 and Bloomfield are both in ISD. You dodged the bullet on this too.
Yeah.
Yes.
So anyway, first of all, thank you very much for coming and keeping us informed. It's very helpful. And secondly, not speaking for anybody on council or really in the city, but I think personally, it would be important for the concept of having students close to Oak Point Elementary, going to Oak Point Elementary, even if they're kindergartners coming on, and because they're at capacity, having to go all the way down the peninsula to some other schools. So as you decide where this line's being drawn and how to allocate these students, please try and keep enough capacity over here.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
I heard lots of good things about the new Level M ISD superintendent and what you've accomplished in this year and your leadership. And I'm glad I've had the opportunity a couple of times to visit with you at Oak Point Elementary.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. I paid
We
a lot
love
of people a
that.
lot of money to say good things. It's keeping me broke.
And I don't think we've ever had a superintendent come speak to us, so we're gonna mark this special event. Let's go get a picture with you.
Oh, good.
Can someone take a photo first, please? Come on, everybody up. We'll send you a picture.
She's taking one of my phone.
I'm just sitting right here. All right, everybody ready? 1, 2. 1, 2. Thank you so much.
Now, that's mine. She's
Oh,
listening
okay,
to-
you-
One more, sorry.
Mr. Jones, next place.
1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you so
Happy to
much.
have
Thanks, guys. Appreciate y'all very much. Thank you, sir.
Appreciate it very much.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you, ma'am.
Let's return to the regular agenda order. Agenda item number 9, public input. Would anyone like to speak? Jack, come on up. Did you do a card? I didn't get a card.
I didn't know you did that for the public input section. You do? I'll do
We
it
can do it
after.
later. Thank you.
I am Jack Brown, 615 Woodridge Drive for about 6 years. I'm expressing concerns about the last night's joint meeting of the council and the planning commission, planning and zoning and economic development versus the meeting of that same group that occurred around the end of the year. I think it was December, maybe January. I attended both. And at the earlier meeting, do you have a slide? Yes, thank you. Can you put that up? At the earlier meeting, a slide very much like this was presented to the officials, and considerable concern was expressed by probably at least a third, maybe half of the people in that group of 25 or 30 about this particular area. Sorry about my shaking hand, right here, this orange zone, which was described as a mixed-use commercial and higher density residential, which was deemed necessary as a buffer between whatever residences would be built in here and the businesses that would be lined up along the southern part of 720. Well, I noted that there's a similar situation up here, and there's no buffer between any of the prospective Bloomfield homes and the backs of the commercial zone there. There are small lot single-family residences that back directly up to the back of all of those commercial structures that would be built along that section. Yet for some reason, it was deemed necessary to have buffers in here to separate the larger lot residences from the higher density section here and then from the commercial along 720. I don't get the difference between those two, and neither did some of the people who were in attendance at that meeting, because it was requested of half, the consultant, to go back and revise this plan to eliminate this orange higher density residential and merge it in with all of the residential and simply allow zoning to permit different lot sizes as the developers might choose between, whatever is on the small end and whatever 4 or 5 acres might be on the larger end further west. I attended last night's meeting anticipating that I would see the results of that modification by half. And as far as I could tell, the plan that they presented yesterday evening was identical to this one. Maybe some minor details about the boundaries or something like that, but the thrust of the presentation was just like what we had earlier in the year. At last night's meeting, concern was again expressed about the level of density, which would, by the way, include townhomes. It would presumably include some rear entry, rear garage, alley access, single-family homes, and it would provide for some 2-story structures where there's commercial on the ground floor and residences of some kind on the upper level. Seems to me that none of that is consistent with Oak Point as a country place, particularly on the west side of 720, where larger lots and more spacious character have always been prevailing, and I thought would probably continue on into the future. Concern was expressed about this last night by Brent Coleman, and you, Mrs. Mayor, said something in agreement with that. I think one or two other people might have, but I didn't come away thinking there's any directive or any guidance to have to go restructure that orange zone to make it look more like what is going to be in the yellow zone. That concerns me because the next meeting is months away, and there will be a lot of time for this to get locked into stone before any more modifications might take place. And I think, speaking only as a resident of a smaller lot on the east side of 720, I don't think that's what anyone had in mind for the properties to the left. Now, there's lots of high density in here. We all know the reasons for that. That was a trade-off to get a land swap accomplished to deal with a potential high school in that area. And certain things had to be accepted by the council and by the committees and by the city, the town, to make that happen. I don't think those same pressures exist on this orange and yellow section that justify the same kind of high density. So that's my comment. I'm concerned that there was no clear guidance to have to address these issues. And I hope that something like that can be conveyed to them well before the next meeting, when it may then be a little late for addressing this. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. Agenda item number 10, presentation and discussion of the following reports.
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
we have another public comment.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I'm good.
Okay. Financial report for April 2024. Council, do you have any questions? Stephen, I have a question about licenses and permits. John's favorite topic. We have an unfavorable variance of over 400,000. What is your anticipation of how much we might catch up before the end of the fiscal year? How do things look this month and going forward?
So I was looking at that earlier, and going into the first 4 months of the fiscal year, we had built 24 homes, I believe, and I think we only planned on 125 for the year. So we're slightly behind, but I'm not certain. I think that we're probably going to fall short a little bit in our numbers, but I think as the summer rolls around, that's typically when building picks up. So we will pick up and come in far closer than what we're seeing now, but I think probably overall we're going to be slightly over or under in that category. So
Okay.
that's my projection anyway. So.
Any other questions on the financial report?
On that note, and I don't want to worry about timing, but next year's projections, we've got dirt moving, but are we going to be building homes on that? Are we going to be looking at lesser numbers next year?
We only budgeted for roughly 125 or 26 homes to be built this last budget year, because roughly that's the number of lots we thought we had available to build on. And I think it's pretty well working out pretty close to that. But moving forward, in July, Ashland should have about 75, 80 lots coming on. And then in about April, well, I'm sorry, they should have a lot more than that. They should have closer to 200 lots coming on in July. And then in about April, Bloomfield lots should be coming online. So I think somewhere next year we will have available, somewhere in the neighborhood of 250 lots to build on. All right, lots that we can build on. Where this year wasn't that we didn't think we could build 125 homes. We didn't think we had 125 lots available to build homes on. Was the concern.
Okay, quarterly investment report. Any questions from council? Municipal court report for April 2024. Any questions?
Backlog keeps going up. What you do about it?
Permits report for April 2024. Department of Public Safety report for April 2024. Chief,
Yes, we did a quick presentation on the Citizens Academy, and a couple other things we wanted to touch on. Officer Warren put together a little slide for everybody.
Great.
They'll explain a little bit more on this.
I love the Citizens Academy. Thank you, Officer. I learned so much, and I strongly encourage council to do it next time.
I just shoot.
I got to shoot a taser.
You make your turn, you got it.
No, I didn't want to be tased.
Should be at the top. Who'd you shoot with the taser?
A bad guy.
Jeff, you want to-
I'm not hearing this.
Thank you.
The magic of electricity.
And you should have one.
Oh,
It's a laser aimed at the pedestrian. Is it not
do I?
amazing?
It's not fancy. Good evening. Thank you all for having me here tonight. I'm Officer Warren. I've been one of your sworn police officers for just under 2 years. I have some experience in policing. Current role, I serve as our communities as a police officer, a department liaison to other departments in the area, and program manager, accreditation, community engagement programs. Tonight, I'm here to speak to you on some of our current programs and programs that we are looking at bringing here in the near future as part of our new initiative. We've named it the Trust First Initiative, public decision to first responders to protect and serve the community. I'd like to briefly discuss why we want to move that forward in that direction. In recent years, the media highlighted questionable uses of force and dishonorable officers committing terrible acts across the nation. This has led to a breakdown in trust and communication between communities and police that serve them. It's crucial to understand that these isolated incidents do not define our department. Our values are rooted in community service, and this initiative is a testament to our unwavering commitment to fostering an understanding between ourselves and our community. Some of these programs aren't new. We've already had some in position. They're going to be in the initiative added in just as others. Things like the academy as combined with the fire, so you have both sides. Coffee with the cop, and opportunities like these situations offer established relationships between the community and the departments of public safety while rendering service to the public at the same time. We're able to give families toys for their kids that might not have the opportunity, or a situation to get drugs off the street instead of them ending up in bad situations in wrong hands. The Citizens Academy, we recently completed our first time. We'll be starting one later this year as well. We'll be posting that information as soon as the dates come out. The Academy is 12 weeks long. It's 2.5 hours on Mondays. We include both fire and police in our academy, which is different from others in the area. The fire side, we talk about fire equipment and command structure, fire department safety plans.
What's that function in the middle there?
The fire in the middle. Picture in the
That's
middle
where I fired me.
is we teach you how to successfully use a fire extinguisher. So it's to be about 6 feet away. Depending on the extinguisher and the rating, the fire department goes over all of that with you. The professionals there, not I. But they cover those topics and teach you how to successfully where to aim, how to get the fire out. They cover it if you have a fire in your oven, close the door, don't open it and try to put it out because you're just going to make it worse and get smoke in your house and everything else. Close the door, call the fire department that should sniff it out, but by the time they get there, you put it out, it's not out yet.
And I got to break the glass in the car. That was exciting. Just a little bitty thing, it just shatters.
One thing that was unique about ours as well is we've got CPR certification. We did stop the bleed certification. We have instructors on the fire side and police side that were able to teach those things. We had citizens in this academy that had participated in other police and fire academies, and they said they hadn't got that from other academies. So we're actually providing skills to members of the community that could eventually save on someone's life. The CPR class, for instance, goes all the way from juvenile to infant to adult. So you have a grandchild or your daughter or someone at your house, you could potentially save a life before we can even get there. Police topics included police equipment. We don't let you see firearms, but we did do tasers. That's Lieutenant Sipple there with the taser training. We have scenarios that we do. We have the traffic stops outside. We go over penal code, the penal code coverage, we cover stuff that we commonly see here. And so we're trying to get across to how you protect yourself from becoming a victim of crime. So we go over the crime stats that we have and what we're trying to prevent from it happening to our citizens. We talk about mental health and how it's affecting our communities, how you might be able to recognize it in your own families. Because most people don't know the onset of mental health starts at age 30. Schizophrenia develops around age 30 generally. And it takes 10 years for someone to get treatment after that point, statistically. So we go through all this and try to help people understand what they're going through and let the community know it's okay to reach out for help. We talk about the different divisions in the department as well. We have detectives, school resource officers, just a variety. We cover what those roles are and how they differ. We also have the Coffee with the Cop program, which has been successful with Starbucks. We also have company coming in, so we're going to try and make sure we split that evenly between the two. We've hosted individual events, such as the one posted on the bottom left. But the one on the bottom right there was actually hosted by Wildridge. So some of the neighborhoods are actually reaching out and just asking for us to have an appearance. And they're posting and paying for their residents to come out. So it's something that we do for the whole community, and then also our individual neighborhoods are also reaching out and expanding on it further. Moving forward, what we're looking for, programs like National Night Out, maybe some security surveys, if you want to get some extra training on that first. So that's the stuff we're looking into. I'm looking at including our businesses and houses of worship, the 2 churches that we have here within city limits that we serve. Go over security assessment. What are you going to do if you have a fire here? What are you going to do if you have an active shooter? We've seen these incidents happen across the nation, and sometimes they're handled very well and then end quickly. Sometimes people panic and there's more loss of life. So our goal with security assessments is how to prevent that from happening here, and how if it does happen, how to prevent it from being worse than what it could have been. Youth programs we're looking at, we have the 3 SROs we have right now. So we're looking at possibly establishing a small youth police academy, bicycle safety. That program with the engraving, that wouldn't cost us anything. And it would cut down on us being able to investigate bike thefts. A lot of bikes don't have any way of identifying them other than it's a blue Huffy. If you're able to have us engrave it, and then it got stolen, you had that serial number, we'd be able to track that down and be able to find the property. Because right now, blue Huffy, who's Huffy? Police athletic league we're looking at, but we also realize that not all kids like sports. Some might like fishing, hiking, so we're looking at that. Art, some kids might not like being outdoors at all. So we're looking to try to accomplish as much as we can with as many people as we can. This isn't all going to happen overnight. It's not all going to happen this year. This is just ideas that we have that we're trying to look into how we can get started to better involve everybody that we can. 2 people on the screen right now. E.P. Brown was a doctor who was a police chief at Atlanta and Houston. He also served as the city's mayor at one point. He believed that community policing is a collaborative partnership between the police and law-abiding citizens designated to prevent crime, arrest offenders, solve neighborhood problems, and improve the quality of life in the community. I believe since we've grown a little bit and our officers have really pushed on this community relations, we have seen some crime stats go down because people are calling us more, they trust us more. So I want to make sure we keep going in that direction, especially with our expansion. We have a lot of people moving in from different states, and we want to build on that trust and keep having that communication. If we don't know what the problems are in the neighborhoods, people don't want to talk to us, we can address those issues. Sir Robert Hill is the modern father of policing. He started it all. And back in the day when that started, he believed the ability for police to perform their duties is dependent upon public approval of police existence, actions, behavior, and the ability of police to secure and maintain public respect. So this isn't new concepts. This has been going back since the 18th century, and it's something we just need to keep building on and making better. So that's our plan moving forward. Questions?
Thank you. Great presentation. Chief Tattoo, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I want to thank Officer Horn. He's taken this, with all the millions of projects that I'm working on, he's taken this and ran with it, and I think he's doing a great job. I'm thankful that he's here.
Me too. It was a great class. I want to apologize. I think the last city council meeting or the one before, on the fire department chart, I asked why there were so many incidents in one day. I looked at it closer, it's for the week, it's not for one day. So I'm sorry. I know you didn't have 22 fires in one day, so I'm sorry. Next is update on ambulance services. Our battalion chief, Gary Sansing, is going to come up and give us an update.
Mayor, Council, thank y'all for having me tonight. For those that don't know me, my name is Gary Sansing. I'm Battalion Chief for the City of Oak Point Fire Department. In my area of purview is EMS. So recapping from the February meeting, I believe, Aubrey back sometime last year approached us with the desire to vacate their interlocal agreement for ambulance services. This was due to logistical as well as some financial reasons. As a result of that, also they have a desire and an interest to protect their own area, their own city. They feel like that if for future development and planning, they're not going to be able to do that. However, there's a little caveat to that I will get into that has since kind of broke loose since our last conversations. So with that being said, the current contract interlocal agreement that is in place right now is in effect until September of 26. There is an exclusionary period every year that is effective as of October 1 to where they can opt out of said contract if they so desire. Okay? If they do not express that desire within that 90-day window, then the contract carries on for another year and we keep on going with business as usual under the current regime. Like I said, if they do miss this deadline, essentially nothing changes, for lack of better words. Chief Slaughter and our conversations with Chief Slaughter seem to indicate that, one, they don't want to opt out of the contract, that they're not looking to, quote unquote, drop us, for lack of better words, but they have expressed a desire to get out of that contract. For options for us, aside from the City of Oak Point Fire Department taking on ambulance services, there are two entities that have reached out to provide us options in lieu of that. And for anonymity's sake, I'm not going to bring up the agencies that are looking at doing this because we are in those preliminary conversations and nothing is set in stone as of yet. That being said, both of these agencies are giving us informal price ranges of $500,000 to $600,000 as a yearly contract for them to provide us ambulance services. One of those entities has stepped forward and said that they are willing to allocate one ambulance along with two paramedics from their entity and provide that ambulance in the City of Oak Point as in our fire station. Okay, I feel like that if we were to approach the other entity, they would make that same offer as well. However, that has not been expressed by them. So kind of moving into where we're at with the station wise, we would have to make accommodations for renovations as well as rearranging of things because as the current footprint of the fire station is, we don't have the ability to house that ambulance. Dishes, Texas Department of Health Services requires those ambulances be in a controlled atmosphere. They can't be parked outside, yada, 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 okay? Secondly, we don't have the living quarters to be able to take on two more personnel without some significant renovations to the fire station, not only for personnel, but also for apparatus supplies. So whether we decide to bring on ambulance services as the City of Oak Point Fire Department, or whether we go with one of these other offers that are preliminarily on the table, either which way, there will have to be some sort of renovations, accommodations made for the expansion of ambulance service and the accompanying personnel. Everybody with me so far? Okay. There are talks with some internal moving with possibly removing our reserve engine out to Public Works. Again, city manager has been in conversations with that. It's, there's also some talks of metal outbuildings, things of that nature to house that engine. So where are we at as of the next step? We were tasked since February to reach out to some third-party consulting companies to provide us with some outside input as to whether this is viable, what are the logistics of it, cost, expected revenues, things of that nature. We have reached out to 3 companies, and essentially all 3 companies have gave us the same story, okay? We'll take the numbers that we as the fire department have already generated, review those numbers, tell you whether they agree with them or don't agree with them. However, we're not gonna bring on any outside data to vet those numbers. We're taking your numbers. By the way, we're gonna charge you approximately $50,000 to do this with a 6 to 8 month lead time to accomplish this, basically using what we as the fire department have came up with. It is not our recommendation to invest that kind of money into a consulting company to look at this when the numbers that we have come up with to implement ambulance services with some conservative projections on returns from insurance puts us at $612,000 a year. Both of the outside entities that have expressed a desire to provide us with ambulance services are in that $500,000 to $600,000 range, which tends to lead us to believe that our numbers are vetting themselves based off of us competing offers. Okay? So moving forward, we're kind of at a juncture of which pathway do we want to choose? Do we want to go outside with it? Do we want to bring it inside with it? At the present time, depending on which vendor we choose for an ambulance, we're looking at a minimum of a year lead time. So if we were to commit the funds to order said ambulance today, there is no possible way that I could back it into the fire station and put it into service until this time next year. And that's if we go with the least lead time company that we have. And that's also projecting that there's not any changes with chassis availability and things of those nature. As a competing offer with said vendor, we could be looking as much as 48 months if we were to go with a different vendor. So 4 years to get a chassis to have an ambulance built as of right now. Obviously, there's the personnel that comes along with this. We mentioned a SAFER grant. As of last year, that is something that we are definitely getting into the nuts and bolts of exploring that. We would ideally like to bring on at a minimum 9 firefighter paramedics or paramedics only, contingent on sending them to the fire academy to staff said ambulance. However, that is still something that we're still further exploring. Lastly, do y'all have any questions for me?
You talked about bringing on 9 EMS staff, but don't we already have some EMS staff?
We do have we have 3 currently in paramedic school. As of right now, they will graduate paramedic training, I believe, the 2nd week of October. I am also looking at sending 3 more the subsequent year, being January of 25, for those as well to bring on. That would bring on another 3 more. As it is right now, the fastest model to get a paramedic through training is no less than 9 months. There are some other models out there, shift-based hybrid type programs where you can get them done in under a year. But the Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, 9-month program is by far the fastest program to get set up. Did that answer your question?
Yes, and the SAFER grant, for people that don't know, is assistance from the government to help us pay for those EMTs.
Excuse me. Not only EMS, but also fire. SAFER is Staffing for Adequate Fire EMS Response. That's the acronym that SAFER falls under. It is Department of Homeland Security and FEMA earmarked money that provides political subdivisions, cities, municipalities, things of this nature with funding to pay for fire response, EMS response. It is a program that we have to apply for. If we are in receipt of said grant, we have to put out what we want to do. We have also learned subsequently that FEMA and DHS has revamped the criteria for that program, and now in order for us to be eligible for those monies, we have to adhere to or actually become compliant with FBA 1710, which says that you must have, without a truck company, so the piece of equipment with the ladder on top of it, you have to have 17 fire suppression personnel on scene within the first 8 minutes. Now, that's not all onboarded by us. We can take those considerations in lieu of with mutual aid. So Aubrey can send us an engine, Little Elm can send us an engine, and we can count those personnel into that 17, okay? So, that being said, we would have to apply for the grant in such a way that we can ensure that we are adhering to NFPA 1710 to be eligible for the Safer Grant. Does that answer your question?
Yes.
I got a question about the standing interlocal agreement. So, I got a question about the standing interlocal agreement.
Yes, sir.
So, October rolls around, they can, if they choose, pull out of the agreement. But do they also have an option that they could try and renegotiate at that point, or it's fixed 5 years or whatever it is, and they can pull out or stay in? Is it just that simple?
They have the ability to opt out. Mr. Ashley, I do not believe they have the ability to renegotiate that, do they?
It's getting into the last year of the agreement anyway, so if they opted out this year, they'd be opting out a year early, which they've indicated that they were not interested in doing. But they could opt out and renegotiate a new agreement. So I think it would be a new agreement. I don't think we'd be amending the existing agreement.
So if you brought on a new piece of equipment, an ambulance, are you considering purchase, lease, or are you looking at both options?
In order to lower the capital expenditure for ambulance, I'm looking at financing. So it would be much like a car payment. We would make an annual payment on that ambulance. I would graduate that payment out over the course of 7 years. Based on our call volume, our transport distances to the hospital, things of that nature, I forecast a realistic timeline for a frontline ambulance for our city to be 7 years before it goes into reserve status.
And that's a purchase.
It would be a purchase.
And is there a lease option?
There is a lease option, yes. I would caution, my caution on the lease option is at the end of that lease, obviously we would have that ability to maybe repurchase that ambulance, but if we do a lease option, we don't get the ability to move that ambulance from frontline service to reserve and have a good reserve to back up our frontline.
Greg, the city financed the last fire engine we had, and that within the next couple of years will be paid off.
Did I answer your question?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I don't have anything else. Does anybody else have anything? Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, sir.
Agenda item 11, report from council liaison. A, update on the Park May meeting. Scott, can you help us?
Okay, so Park has been pretty consumed with the pickleball court thing. And other than that, I'll get into more detail on that in a second. The kiosk at the ramp is due to be installed May 21st. And they're inquiring with the Mormon church about a farmer's market in their parking lot. The Mormon church said, yeah, that's fine, but we have to get approval from Salt Lake City. So who knows? And on the pickleball courts, the designs are done, 3 courts, fence around it, so forth, and it's ready to go out to bid. It was approved, the design was approved, and so I don't know what the timeline is for the bid, but it was indicated that maybe we'll have them for the next meeting. And that's pretty much it. The park.
Thank you. 11B, update on the Economic Development Corporation May meeting. Greg, can you tell us about that?
I think everyone was there. Jeff did a great job of giving us some insight as to what transpired last night, but we had a combined meeting of the Planning and Zoning Commission and the EDC and the City Council, which permitted our consultant have to give us an update on the progress they've made on the commercial corridor, character code and zoning issues. And I think we all know that that project was delayed by at least a few months by some personnel issues that have had, which have now been resolved, and they're moving forward with the timeline toward late of this year or early next year to have the project finalized. So they're in process, they're making progress, and there are checkpoints coming along with our advisory committee working with staff and of course staff.
Thank you, Greg. Next, we have the consent agenda. Agenda item 12, consider and act upon the minutes of the April 3, 17, 30, 2024 city council meetings. 13, consider and act upon a resolution authorizing the city manager or his designee to execute the interlocal cooperation agreement between the city of Oak Point and the Denton Independent School District for school resource services. And 14, consider and act upon a resolution authorizing the city manager or his designee to execute an interlocal agreement between the city of Oak Point and the Little Elm Independent School District for school resource services. Council, is there a motion to pass everything in its entirety, or would someone like to pull one of these three agenda
I'll make a
items?
motion to pass the 3 items.
I'll second.
14.
Okay, we have a motion by Councilmember Lusk, and I'm sorry I didn't catch who made the second.
second.
So what are you now? You are the deputy mayor pro tem?
Deputy Mayor Pro Tem.
Got a second. We have a second from deputy mayor pro tem. Okay, any discussion? If not, we'll vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. Regular agenda. We have already accomplished and finalized number 15. That was our visit from the superintendent of Little Elm ISD. So we're on to 16. Consider an act on a resolution providing for the temporary closure of approximately 300 feet of Majestic Oaks Drive on May 30th, 2024, from 6:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. Stephen?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. As you mentioned, this is a resolution requesting a temporary closure of approximately 300 feet of Majestic Oaks Drive and Eagles Landing subdivision. The HOA is planned a neighborhood street party. The event is planned for Thursday, May 30th, 6:30 to 8:30. The Eagles Landing, the board members will be on site. They've agreed to monitor the activities and ensure the safety of the participants. The HOA, they expect approximately about 100 attendees, and they will be responsible for cleaning up after the fact. They've spoken with both the police and the fire departments. They reviewed their plans. The city attorney has written the resolution, and staff recommends council approve the resolution for the temporary closure from 6 to 9 p.m.
Thank you, Stephen. Is there a motion?
Well, if there's any uncertainty about it, I was gonna fill in on our history.
Can we do the motion first, then have discussion, please?
Yeah.
Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve item 16 as written.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion by Deputy Mayor Pro Tem Pelkey. And we have a second by Councilmember White. Okay, let's have discussion. Go ahead.
Okay, so in the last 2 years, we've had more turnover in Eagles Landing in probably any 2-year period. And for the last 10 or 15 years, we've been doing a progressive dinner, and it's kind of fizzled a little bit. So we thought, well, we'll change it. We'll do a real street party, and not at the park. We could do it at the park because street party is more different. It would attract more people, and we're honoring the new neighbors. So we just try to get everybody integrated into the neighborhood. So that's basically the story.
Thank you, Scott. We'll vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. 17, review and discuss Oak Point Code of Ordinances, Chapter 14, Exhibit A, Section 6F1 regarding roof pitch. It says mayor here, but I'm hoping for assistance from city manager and city attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. So our code's pretty simple in what it references. It just says, with the exception of R3X and R4X and MHRX district, the roof slope shall be a minimum of 8 to 12 construction. Talks about having some opposing roof elements on the front facade and at least one of the other facade. So in reality, most of our PDs have development agreements, and those development agreements are requiring that those neighborhoods have an 8 to 12 or greater roof pitch. This really only impacts PD 1 and PD 2, which is Eagles Landing and Emerald Sound, and that currently that one little neighborhood, Arbor Square, Arbor Cove, has 8 houses.
With 8 lots.
Yeah. So that's basically the crux of it. I don't know how many more lots are available in Eagles Landing and Emerald Sound. Every now and then, I guess somebody will split a larger lot and make a smaller one and build a house. But we've really not had a whole lot of impact on the community as a whole. Wildridge is under a development agreement for 8 to 12. Bloomfield site will be under development agreement for 8 to 12. Windsor Springs is under development for 8 to 12, but they came in and requested for an SUP to have less than 8 to 12 on a rear slope. And that was approved. City attorney did some research. I can let him speak to that.
Yeah, and I've handed out kind of a 2-page, just some of the communities that I looked at. That's correct. And just, what their ordinance provide. I would add that I looked at some other cities that they don't even address roof pitch. So it may be something that's in development agreements. For example, Frisco and Plano could not find really an ordinance that addresses roof pitch. So I would guess development agreements probably contain the roof pitch requirements. In Roanoke, for example, on the front page, they have a general 8 to 12 roof pitch requirement. They have an Oak Street overlay district for kind of the central part of Roanoke. That they have 2 different roof pitches for gable roofs. It's a 5 to 12, and then for hipped roofs, I don't know what that is. I'm not an architect, but whatever a hipped roof is, that is 6 to 12. The colony, just whatever's required by the International Building Code. And then Little Elm, they have a general provision for 6 to 12 roof pitch. And so that's, just kind of a sample of neighboring communities. Again, a lot of the cities I looked at, they had no requirements within their zoning code.
Stephen, do you have a recommendation you would like to? I think it would be good to avoid the occasional builder coming for a special exception or an SUP or wanting to do something different.
Up until recently, most of our builders, when they've been faced with 8 to 12 roof pitch slope and their course of action or their choice of relief, I guess however you want to state that, is to come before either the Board of Adjustments. I'm sorry, it wouldn't really be the Board of Adjustments for that. It would be a P&Z and City Council for a roof slope issue. The last one had to go before the Board of Adjustments because he wanted a garage in front of the primary structure. So that's where I was kind of going. But most of our builders just build the 8 to 12. They don't look at the hassle of having to come through back to City Council and then again looking at it and saying, hey, well, this really only impacts the 2 subdivisions in the 1 8-house neighborhood. I don't know if it's worth the city and the P&Z's time to take this on. But if they were going to take this on and maybe do something with the roof pitch, I think you look at that rear roof pitch, and that's what we did in Windsor Springs, was allowed for a lesser roof pitch on the rear slope of the house that's not facing the street. And that gives them a little relief. The roof pitch is 8 to 12 roof pitch in Texas is an aesthetic thing. It's not like up north where this is a conditional thing due to snow and weight of the roof. This is mainly about a look. Communities I've worked for in the past didn't even have, as Jeff mentioned, we didn't even regulate roof pitch. You can build what you wanted. A 6 to 12 roof pitch, that's typically your tract home builders, that's your smaller tract home builders, maybe starter home type kind of roof pitches. So I don't know that you'd want to go there, but
It sounds like you're suggesting we don't make a change, but just ask builders to adhere.
either my kind of a little bit of both ways, either make the change on the rear slope or just leave it alone. So
Stephen, I mean, we only talk about 3 communities. How many potential?
well, that's what I'm saying. I think both those subdivisions are pretty well built out.
We only got a few of them.
Every now and then somebody has a 2-acre lot, they split it and sell off the lot. So we get one here every now and then. And then what a lot of times I'm seeing are some of the more challenging lots that have challenging issues to build in those lots. So developers are now picking up those more challenging lots and building on those. But most, with the exception of this last builder, just have complied. They just went back and said, let me just redraw my plans and make it work.
Question, what is the IWC standard?
International Building
I
Code.
know, but what is the standard, what is it now?
To get a metal roof to flow, so get water off. But there's no standard in IBC say that a roof must be 8 to 12 or 10 to 12. So this what the minimum can be a safe roof.
I just had a visitor from up north actually compliment our roof pitches. He's in construction. I say leave it the way it is, and then they need a waiver for, what's that?
Did you ask for a compliment or you got clear
It
view?
was
It was a compliment because he came from New York and he was like, I love the roof pitches out here. He's actually in construction. He actually complimented our community with the roof pitches. So I say, let's leave it the way it is. And if there needs to be a waiver for the backside or something like that, let them ask for the waiver. It's worked in the past. Why change it?
Agreed.
And there's a process.
Yes.
Right, we have a process.
There's an appeal process. If you have a specific thing, there's a special, challenge, or you want it a certain way, you have an option to go through the process, and you either have it approved or not. I don't see a reason to change it.
No change.
So would language like for architectural integrity be too vague? If you wanted to do something else, is that, because my fear is that architect will look at the rules and say, oh, we can't do that, and not even think about anything else, when my house could be built under this rule. And we just had a house built, Eagles Landing, that's very nice, and it breaks all the rules, and they didn't get an SUV, and it just slipped through somehow. And I have a picture of it here on my phone. I was gonna send it to Jody, but I forgot. And I think it's a very nice looking house. There's not an 812 anywhere near it. And that house that came up to, that was trying to get an SUV the other day, it had a very interesting roof design to me, and it had various pitches and so forth. And I thought it would be a nice looking house that helps cut down the cookie cutter look when you have various roof pitches. But if there's some way to allow for an architect to read it and say, well, there's a chance we can do it, even if we have to go through a process, is there language that can be put in like that?
And I think that's the argument that they make. They have the option always to request a special use permit. So if they can convince P&Z and City Council that that it's something that makes the house work, then yeah.
So a special use permit wouldn't require a hardship or anything?
Special use permit does not require hardship now.
They're more modern look houses are being built in a lot of communities, and they don't have the steep pitches that a more traditional look has. And I think we should at least have an option for that kind of architecture to be in the community in the right places.
Well, I mean, that's what the process is for. I mean, if I came in with a, very modern design, I said, I know this costs grade 12, but I'd like to build this here, and I come in time, and it just breaks ground, stuff. So, this is interesting. I think it's a nice architectural design, presented the planning and zoning, and they said, what, that is, it's unique enough, and except for everything else, we think that belongs, we'll give you a shot. I mean, I think the process in place is appropriate.
So, by the way, Eagles Landing has 15 vacant lots.
Oh, okay. Are they 15 challenging vacant lots? That seems what we've seen to be getting lately,
Are pretty challenging.
got drainage running right through the center of the lot.
Your home sound probably has less than that.
Yeah.
Okay, any other discussion? If not, we're going to agenda item 19, future agenda items. Do y'all have anything you would like to present this time? Oh, 18.
That's okay.
Oh,
We need a
I'm
date
sorry.
for.
18, thank you. Consider an act on an alternate date for the June council meeting. Stephen?
Thank you, Mayor Council. The June meeting falls on the new holiday that we just adopted, Juneteenth. So we need to find another day for June. That was originally scheduled for the 19th of June.
Do you have a recommendation?
How about the 18th of June? So,
Is the 18th of June the day, one day?
it's
really
a
work for y'all?
Tuesday.
I agree.
No, it doesn't work for Greg.
No,
20th?
Dina can't usually make Thursdays. So,
I can't make Thursday.
and that gets us pretty short up.
Monday gets a little sticky, doesn't it, with
We used to
time?
have them on Mondays, but it puts it close. There's nothing on the calendar that would prevent a Monday if we have no other options.
Okay, are y'all available on the Monday, the 17th?
Let me check my calendar. I'm retiring Labor Day that week.
Okay, why don't we go with the 17th?
So we get them,
This-
consider an act, so let's get a motion, yeah.
We need a motion, please.
I'll make a motion to change the date for the June council meeting from June 19th, Juneteenth, to Monday, June 17th.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion from Councilmember Horatio and a second from Councilmember Fastage. Any further discussion? If not, we'll vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The motion passes unanimously. Okay, now we're going to 19, future agenda items. Do y'all have anything at this time? Or you can always email something to Joni. If not,
Wait, we're not going to have a meeting on May 22nd. The developer doesn't have everything in pre-works, so now June 5th is the next meeting for the bid stuff.
For PID,
June 5th.
thank you.
It'll be, they said a 10-minute meeting.
I know you'll shoot me down if I'm out of bounds, but I would urge the council to put an agenda item for the next meeting to talk about what I spoke about. I don't think the community sees what's coming, and I believe that the community interactive discussion about that would be valuable.
okay, I will make that request and I will put it in Joni in writing. Anything else? If not, the meeting is adjourned at 7:31. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Jeff.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Mayor. Thanks for my
So I'm gonna be out of pocket.
I'll wear my sash.